This is a Mughal painting painted around the year 1628 CE. It depicts the Turkic warlord Timur handing over his crown to the Mughal emperor Babur in the presence of Humayun. Although Timur had died years before Babur and Humayun were born, this painting is one of many tools that the Mughals used to identify their Timurid ancestry and Central Asian identity. We can also see that the Mughal emperors are shown with prominently Mongolite features, just like their ancestor Timur. Here is another painting from the 1590s which depicts Akbar receiving an ambassador from Persia. Akbar too is depicted with Turkish or Mongol features, as are many of his courtiers. This here is a white jade vessel used by Shah Jahan as a wine cup. The cup is inscribed with Shah Jahan's title Lord of the Second Conjunction, a direct reference to his ancestor Timur, who styled himself Lord of the Conjunction, signifying his birth at the planetary conjunction of Jupiter and Mars. And like Timur, the Mughals also patronized the Naqshbandi Sufi order both in India and in Central Asia. So what is the point that we are making here? It has been peddled by secular historians that the Mughals were not foreigners but an integral part of India. But the Mughals never considered themselves to be Indians or tied their identity to the Indian subcontinent. In fact, the first Mughal emperor Babur hated India so much that he wanted to be buried in Kabul after his death. The Mughals derived their political legitimacy as the heirs of Timur. Babur was a descendant of the Turkic warlord Timur on his paternal side, and Chagatai, the second son of Mongol conqueror Genghis Khan, on his mother's side. Babur was driven away from his homeland at Fargana and Samarkand by his uncles and cousins and found his way into India, establishing himself here out of no choice. Babur, a refugee, would later claim that ruling India was his birthright, as his ancestor Timur had invaded and looted North India in 1398. Timur and his sons and grandsons had married strategically into the Chinggisid family, resulting in what historian Beatrice Mans describes as an in-law dynasty. According to the historian Lisa Balabanlilar, this Timurid heritage was at the central core of the Mughals' self-image, nurtured through political and cultural institutions. Timur's royal title, Gurugan, which means son-in-law, was also adopted by the Mughals. In fact, over 250 years of their rule, Babur and other Mughals never referred to themselves as Mughals, but as Silsila-e-Gurugan or Gurugania, the dynasty of the son-in-law. Paintings, imperial genealogical chronicles, ceremonial titles, etc. reinforced this Mughal identity as descendants of Timur. While secular historians today claim Mughals to be Indian, the Mughals themselves held fast to their Turco-Mongol heritage and claimed to be exceptional and better than Indians as they were descended from Timur. One can argue, but then they married many Hindu women of this land and settled here. True, Akbar and his descendants made several marital alliances with Rajput royal families, and by the time of Aurangzeb, the Mughal kings had become much more Rajput in ancestry than Turkish or Mongol. But this did not influence the Mughal family and make them any more Indian. There is no indication that Rajput wives and mothers had any significant impact on the public political activities of the Mughal dynasts. Instead, when Rajput women entered the Timurid family, they had to give up their previous Hindu names and adopt imperial Perso-Islamicate titles. Akbar's favorite wife and chief Rajput empress consort Harika Bai became Maryam-uz-Zamani. Jahangir's wife and mother of Shah Jahan was Manavati Bai, the princess of Marwar, and was rechristened as Jagat Gosain and Taj Bibi after her marriage. Another of Jahangir's wives was a princess of Jaisalmer who was renamed Malika Jahan. The list of Hindu women whom the Mughals took to their harems for carnal pleasures is endless. The language of the Mughal harem was Turkic and later Urdu, and that of the Mughal court was Farsi, nothing Indian about them. The Mughals were also racist, as newly converted Indian Muslims were treated with contempt. According to A History of Modern India by Claude Markowitz, during Akbar's rule, Among the top and middle officials in the Mughal imperial hierarchy, Hindus accounted for less than 20%, while converted Muslims were even fewer. The elites of the Mughal Empire were the Central Asians of Turkic and Mongol origin and Persians. Mughals also remained obsessed with their Timurid homeland and often planned to reconquer Babur's lost kingdom in Transoxania. They would even send wealth there and patronize Central Asian migrants to India. Babur, in his autobiography Babarnama, records the gifts and presents he had sent in the cause of God to the holy men of Samarkand, Khurasan, Mecca, and Medina. The Mughals even sent revenue collected from Indians as gifts to the larger Islamic world, to the kingdoms at Damascus, Baghdad, Cairo, or Tashkent. Akbar, the grandson of Babur, sponsored trips to Mecca for thousands after he conquered Gujarat in 1573 and later discontinued it because of corruption by his own officials. His grandson Shah Jahan too did his bit for the Ummah by sending precious gifts and money. Aurangzeb was perhaps the biggest Indian donor to Muslim lands. The Sharif of Mecca used to send his agents to the Delhi court every year with the object of levying contributions in the name of the Prophet. There are many such instances of Mughals draining the wealth of Bharat. You may think that even if the Mughals had spent all this money on themselves, it would have only ended up in India, spurring the local economy. But even that would not be entirely accurate. India was richest under the Mughals, yet Indians were poor. During Jahangir's time, the English ambassador Thomas Roe had noted the backwardness of the countryside. While the Mughal court filled its coffers in gold, diamonds, and rubies, Thomas Roe found large numbers of destitute people all along the route from Surat to Delhi. According to historian K.S. Lal, the enjoyment of the Muslim elite was provided mainly by the poorest peasants through a crushing tax system. Here's some perspective that will enable you to see things right. If the Mughals, who came from distant lands, ruled India, looted its wealth, and oppressed Indians, are considered an integral part of India today, a day might come when secular historians won't hesitate to whitewash the atrocities of British colonizers and call them an integral part of India.